Hi, it's Ellen, also known as Knit by a Lefty, and I'm back to show you how to do the purl stitch lefty continental style. Now, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you already know how to cast on, how to properly hold and tension your yarn, and you probably already know how to do the knit stitch. So today we're just going to focus on purl. But I want to make sure that you understand the difference between what purl and knit looks like when you do what's called the stockinette stitch. And stockinette is when you work flat and you do one row of knit and then you go back, the next row is purl and then a row of knit and then a row of purl. You end up with this classic knit stitch look, this fabric, and this is generally what's considered the right side of the fabric. And you can see that there are nice columns of stacked V's. So this is the knit side of stockinette, and this is the purl side of stockinette. So rather than those V's, you now have horizontal bars. So this is what we're going to be showing you how to do today. So one of the biggest differences between the knit stitch and the purl stitch is where your working yarn starts. If you remember, in the knit stitch, your yarn starts in the back, but with the purl stitch, your yarn is going to start in front. So what I do on this first stitch, and I'm not going to lie, the first stitch is always a little funky as a continental knitter, is I'm going to bring the yarn in front of my right needle, holding this loop off to the side. I'm then going to take my right thumb and hold the yarn in place. And that'll let me get started. So I'm going to take my left needle, I'm going to come behind the working yarn and into that first stitch by coming in from the top down. I'm actually going to transfer this into being held by my left thumb so you can see. Okay, but it's just the only way I've come up with to hold this yarn in proper position. So now you can see that my left needle, is behind that working yarn, and it's going to go into the first stitch coming in from the top down, with the working yarn in front. Let's do that again. I'm going to hold that loop and I'm going to bring my left needle behind that front yarn and then into the first stitch. And then I'm going to wrap the yarn around my needle by actually wrapping the needle around the yarn. I'm holding everything nice and tightly. There's a lot of tension here, there's tension here. And so I'm able to wrap my needle around the yarn and then use that tension to guide what is going to be the new loop, which is right here, through the old loop that's currently sitting on the right needle. Through it goes, and then I guide that old loop off the right needle. It's a loose, weird, funky stitch, so just kind of tighten everything up, and now it'll be much easier. So now my working yarn is in the proper position in front of my right needle. I'm going to take my left needle behind the working yarn into the next stitch, coming in from the top down. Lots of tension in my yarn, and I'm going to use my left pointer to help me guide my left needle around the yarn and then through the loop. And we guide that new stitch off. I bring the yarn back in front. That's really important. That yarn always has to be in front. And down behind the working yarn, into the loop. I guide my needle around the yarn, and then I bring that stitch through and off. I'll do it again. I'm really curious to know if you guys can follow along with this, because when my righty friends watch me knit, they think I'm doing some kind of crazy. So do leave me a comment below if this is helpful. If not, I'll try to figure out a different way of explaining what I'm doing and showing. That might be easier to follow. Just a few more stitches in this row. Okay, I'm on the last stitch. And I'm quickly going to knit back so I can just show you one more row of purl. Remember, with the knit stitch, the yarn's held in the back, and with the knit stitch, we come into the stitch from the bottom, coming up. It's the opposite with the purl stitch. Sorry, I'm trying to hold everything out of the way and film this video, and it's complicated. Okay, there we go. So we're knitting, knitting, knitting. 2 more knit stitches to go. And then I'll show you that first funky purl stitch. Oops, sorry, this is curling up. But maybe it'll make more sense now that you've seen me do it a few times. Okay, so you have to bring that working yarn over to the left. You're gonna have to hold that working yarn in place with your thumbs. See, there it is, being held in place right here. And now I'm able to go into that first loop, wrap it around and bring it through, tighten it up. That first stitch is always funky. And here we go again. Two more to go. And there you go. That is how this lefty continental knitter does the purl stitch. So leave me a comment, let me know if it was helpful, like and subscribe so you can see when I do put up new videos. And if this one didn't work, I'll try to figure something else out for you. That's it. Happy knitting. Bye.